I guess I want to echo the pun intended, the same sentiments. I was somebody who really loved the original trilogy, and the prequels didn't quite hit it for me. But when the Clone Wars came out and I really binged it and got into it, it made me fall in love with this era so much more. Like Chris mentioned, we get to spend a lot of time with characters we didn't get to see a whole lot of in the films. The clones, we get to really dive into who they are as people, and get to learn their unique personalities and traits. And I think it just did a really good job of expanding Star Wars like we'd never seen before. Star Wars, of course, at that point had only been movies. And this also was in a unique time period in life when there was no, at the time when Clone Wars came out, there was no movies coming. There was no plan for other TV shows. Now it's like there's a TV show 2 or 3 a year. Back then it was just this. So I feel like Clone Wars did a really good job of not just introducing it to a new generation, but keeping it alive for the older generation and improving maybe some things that the prequels didn't quite do. So for that, I think it's always going to hold a special place in my heart and in a lot of fans' hearts. I think, as we mentioned, there's been a lot of characters that were introduced in the Clone Wars and some we got to see more of that we only saw briefly in the movies, but we wanted to talk a little bit about some standout characters, some characters that I think were really important and impactful to the show and became some of my favorite characters as well. Chris, do you want to start? Because I know you're the world's biggest Darth Maul fan.
Yeah.
The scene.
Sorry to all the Duchesses in the crowd. My bad. Yeah, Darth Maul, I mean, ever since I was a little kid, seeing The Phantom Menace, seeing Darth Maul was, even though in The Phantom Menace he did play a minor role, more of a serious role in reality, but just being able to see more of his story throughout the Clone Wars and throughout Rebels and stuff, it really made me fall in love with this character. I know he is the bad guy, and is it, I guess, like Sisyphus, right? Basically.
Yeah, the Greek mythology, there's a character named Sisyphus who is destined to fail, who is always pushing the rock up the hill, and the rock is always coming back and hitting him, and Lucas kind of created Maul as that allegory, that he's always trying to do better, but he just constantly fails, and poor guy does fail quite a bit, so.
He's that bad guy that you just want to see win so bad, but in the end, he really doesn't.
In the end, it doesn't matter. No, poor guy. Some other characters I really enjoyed was Asajj Ventress, who I thought was one of the best characters in the Clone Wars. And, she was introduced in the 2003 Clone Wars little miniseries that was on Cartoon Network. But we really got to dive into her character and really what a tragedy her life was. And just seeing a female lead character getting explored and getting a lot of time on screen, I thought was really important. And I really loved her back and forth with Kenobi. I think they have the funniest quips to each other. And for those of you who don't know, there's an awesome novel that I suggest everyone reading if you're a fan of Asajj, Dark Disciple. Kind of finishes her story, and it's a very fascinating one.
Also, just the Night Sisters in general, being able to sort of delve deeper into Dathomir.
Yeah, and we're getting to see that now with Ahsoka. Spoilers if you haven't seen it by now, but there's awesome lore with the Night Sisters, and get to look at the Force and just religion and spirituality different in Star Wars from the Jedi and the Sith. So she was great and instrumental in introducing that. Chris, want to talk a little bit about Cad Bane?
Cad Bane personally is one of my favorite bounty hunters. I think in the Clone Wars we get to see a whole lot more from bounty hunters, whereas just sort of previously we've seen Boba Fett, Jango Fett, stuff like that, but we actually get to see some of those other characters come back. We get to see Bosk in the Clone Wars, we get to see Cad Bane, we get to see Boba Fett, we get to see many different types of bounty hunters, but Cad Bane is my all-time favorite right there.
And he scares the heck out of me. He's very intimidating, and that voice is just so menacing. I just love Cad Bane. He's a very interesting man. The cowboy hat really sells it. I don't know, he would look weird without the hat. I had included this character because I knew Anna Graves, the voice actress for her, which is here, and I knew there would be a lot of cosplayers here. But I wanted to talk about the Duchess Satine for a minute, who, we got a few fist bumps in the crowd. Another character who I thought was very fascinating, we get to see Mandalorians throughout the films briefly with Boba and Jango, and then we get to see some more obviously in The Mandalorian later, but to me, she's one of the most unique characters when it comes to really being the opposite of what her people and her culture are from. It's a culture full of warriors and fighters, when we have the exact opposite, who is a pacifist and kind of the ultimate symbol of hope for her people. And I'm trying not to talk about spoilers because I don't know if some people in here may have never seen it, or they may try to want to watch the Clone Wars after we talk about it. Her story is incredible. Her and Kenobi's relationship is incredible. And just a very fun, different side of Mandalore that we often don't see, and really want more of her story in some fashion at some point. And then lastly, a character who I adore, not so much in Clone Wars, more so in Rebels, but Jim Cummings was here last year at Chattanooga Con.
Really cool dude as well.
Amazing man, very funny man. Hondo Anaka, who in Clone Wars also scares the heck out of me. Very menacing guy, and not the guy I remembered when I went back to watch it. In Rebels, he's a much different person. Very funny in Rebels. Clone Wars, not so much. He's very intimidating. And he, like I said, Jim Cummings was great. He's an excellent performance. And I just love how Hondo is just kind of one of those characters who you love, but you also can't stand. He's a love-hate kind of guy, and that's definitely how I feel about him.
Very, very chaotic character, has a lot of very chaotic energy.
Yes.
Just anytime he's on screen.
He would definitely be like the chaotic neutral, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
Chaotic neutral, yeah. But I also want to talk about the Clone Wars is very famous for their, it's a very anthology-based type storytelling. So there's a lot of arcs in the Clone Wars, more so than there are just, single episodes. There's a few of those, but a lot of people that remember the Clone Wars or like the Clone Wars, they remember it for certain arcs and certain moments. We highlighted a few of our favorites here. Chris, do you want to talk about your two, the Citadel and the Corruption of Umbara?
Yeah, the Citadel arc, both of mine kind of focus around clones, just because clones are my favorite part of the entire show. But not only with the clones in the Citadel arc, with spoiler alert, with Echo being exploded and thought to be dead, but being able to see Tarkin and something outside of the original trilogy, and just sort of seeing the bond between him and Anakin and how it sort of starts out as like arguments and just sort of like a beef, really, and then they sort of earn that mutual respect for each other by the end of the arc because they see each other's strategies for everything. And then the Umbara arc is that's one of my favorite just pieces of film at all. Never ceases to not make me cry there. But I like seeing like Pong Krell just sort of betraying the Jedi Order. You sort of see that for the first time where people have really kind of started to see through the lies of the Jedi or whatever. And just loads and loads of war crimes.
Yes, I think they're famous for war crimes and tragedy. I would say if you have a soft spot, this may be a little difficult to watch, especially the Umbara arc. As I mentioned earlier, I love how we get to visit so much time with the clones and kind of see who they are as people. And then the Umbara arc just kind of breaks our heart. And seeing a Jedi kind of outside of we know Anakin's story or Dooku's story, but seeing another Jedi kind of be just straight up evil in a way that is a little different, and manipulating his power and position with the Jedi. Very heartbreaking. It's just so devastating. Art pisses me off all the time. It's so sad.
And seeing the brotherhood with the clones, even though they're considered like traitors throughout that episode, they still the brotherhood never fails, never ceases.
I definitely think that is an arc that kind of highlights the brotherhood and the bond between the clones more than anything. And that
it shows how independent they can actually be. They don't necessarily require the orders. They can kind of manage themselves.
Exactly. Which leads to my two favorite arcs, which I may have cheated. These are probably two of the more popular arcs, but they're good nonetheless. They bring me to tears. The Rogue Jedi, as we mentioned earlier with Pong Krell, we get to see another Jedi kind of flip and do very despicable things, and really kind of flips the view of the war on its head. It's not really so black and white, and the Clone Wars is. There's a lot of gray area there between how the Jedi approach the war, how the response to the war has been. It was very heartbreaking to see that story and the ending of that story, which, for those of you who don't, I don't know if some people may not remember or know this, but the Rogue Jedi, that episode ended, and that was the end of season 5. And then shortly after, Disney had purchased Star Wars, and Clone Wars was canceled at that point. So we had no idea. It left on a massive cliffhanger, and I was really annoyed for years. I didn't know what was going to happen to Ahsoka, and it was just very heartbreaking way to end that. And then the Siege of Mandalore, which I think is probably my favorite thing in Star Wars, might be my favorite story in Star Wars. Just a beautiful way to wrap up the whole series. Such a build-up, and it connects all these plot threads that we've been following through the whole series. Such a nice, tight bow, and also another heartbreaking end, as we know what happens with the clones and to Mandalore in the future now. So, as we've been talking, we've had a lot of new shows coming out in the last few years and movies, and we've had so many of these Clone Wars characters, or characters that were introduced in the Clone Wars, kind of make that jump from animation to live action. And I think it's really awesome to see that, and I think we'll continue to probably see more of those as Dave Filoni is taking over and doing a lot of the Star Wars TV stuff. Chris, do you want to talk about maybe who's your favorite so far jump from animation to live action?
I've really enjoyed seeing Bo-Katan. Definitely, it was a shock with Cat Bane. I remember the morning that episode came out, we watched it at work.
Yeah, we did.
I had to watch it, but it was definitely Cat Bane and Bo-Katan for sure. And then obviously Ahsoka, who can't love Ahsoka?
Yes. All right, yeah, the Cat Bane episode of Book of Boba Fett, I had watched it with my wife early that morning before work, and I was just blown away, and I was so surprised. I was like, oh my God, this is like the coolest thing ever. And I got to work, and Chris and I had a slow morning, so I was like, I really don't want you to wait till you get home tonight, because I really want to talk about this. So like, if you want to watch it, it's only like 45 minutes. So we may have got paid to watch Book of Boba Fett that morning on the clock, but it's well worth it. Probably my favorite thing I ever got paid for. It was very fun. There's been a lot of, like I said, a lot of different characters. One of my favorites, I think, is Saul Guerrero, which is one of the arcs I almost included in the last one. But I really find Saul as a character who I love-hate. Like I think he's a very fascinating and multifaceted character, but I also can't stand him at the same time because he annoys me to no end. But just to see that transition from a young man in the Clone Wars to, I think, one of the best movies during this last 10 years or so, Rogue One, I love seeing that transition into a hopeful, naive, maybe young man fighting for a cause to a bitter, revolutionist who was very extreme. I thought that was a very fascinating transition. And I remember when Rogue One came out, I recognized the name, but I could not place it where, and I had to go online and search, who's Saul Guerrero, why do I know that name? And it was just very cool to see. That was really, I think, the first character we get to see from animation jump to live action. So that really kind of validated me as an animation fan. As we know, like, animated things are maybe not hold as highly as the films are or the TV shows, but seeing that kind of validated that for a little bit and made it feel like the Clone Wars was really worth it, and like we were getting that benefit of watching it and getting paid off for it.
Agree.
And Ahsoka, I think we have to talk about Ahsoka because she has a whole series now, and it's kind of really become a big part of Star Wars the last few years. Seeing another character who was very young and naive and optimistic, and to a grown middle-aged woman in her series and in the Mandalorian, just seeing that transition, and so much of her story has been told throughout different forms of media now that it's just very cool to see, and I think Rosario Dawson looks incredible as Ahsoka. I have a few qualms about her acting, but overall I could not picture a better person from straight from animation to live action, and she just looks the part and is very, very well. Her fight scenes are incredible.
Can't forget about Huye.
Oh, and Huyang. Oh, yes, I included him and forgot. Who's a very fascinating character who I'm very excited to see if we see more of him in the future, since he's so old, and we're going to see more of the Star Wars time period back then. So he's a very fascinating character to have, and his arc is also another arc I included. when he teaches the Jedi to the younglings to build a lightsaber. That to me is always a fascinating art, seeing that whole process where we don't get to see that in the films usually. They just kind of already have their sabers, or it's talked about off screen that, hey, he built a new lightsaber, or so-and-so has a new lightsaber.
I'm curious as to if he's going to be in the Acolyte, see if he maybe pop up.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, we have a few different Star Wars projects coming out. He could definitely fit in there with the Acolyte a couple hundred years before the Clone Wars, and then the James Mangold movie that's going to take place 25,000 years in the past. He definitely would be perfect for both of those, and they already have the design and the model ready, so I say just put him in there, make it worth. He was one of the funniest parts of Ahsoka for me. And I know we've briefly talked about them here and there, we've mentioned them, but I think it would be a disservice if we did not dedicate some time to the clones, who are to me, heart and soul of the Clone Wars, and really of maybe Star Wars. But Chris, talk about some of your favorite clones, because I know you're the clone guy.
Definitely some of my favorite clones are definitely from Domino Squad. Definitely Echo, Fives, Bad Batch. I love Bad Batch. I love the show. And just clones in general. I love the uniqueness that they gave to them. They're not just all just these copy and paste people. They each have their own personality. They get tattoos, they dye their hair, they cut their hair different. Some of them do look the same, but each of them have their own unique personality. And I guess, is it the first episode where Yoda kind of talks about it?
Yeah. The very first episode I thought was very awesome, how they planned this, where Yoda and the clones are going on a mission against Ventress, and how he mentions to all the clones that even though you have the same face and may have the same genetic structure, the Force doesn't see you that way. And I thought that was a brilliant storytelling decision to highlight how unique each of them are without telling us. It was very fun. And yeah, like you said, the clones are just all have fun personalities, and each time we get introduced to a new clone, I'm sad because we know we're going to lose him at some point. But they're very fun. I enjoy the clones so much. Some of my favorite clones, I guess, would be Rex. Maybe an easy answer, but I also love the Bad Batch. Has been one of my favorite things in Star Wars the last few years, and they're just so fun and so fascinating.
Just the crazy talent from D. Bradley Baker.
Oh yeah, what a guy!
Want to use the same voice but put a different personality to each one. It's amazing.
Yeah, I met him at Dragon Con this past year. He was there, and very, very nice guy. And I'd asked him who his favorite clone was, and because I'm sure he's been asked that a million times, but I just have to know because I haven't been there to ask. So he mentioned that Crosshair was his favorite, and I found that very fascinating. I was like, wow, okay, that's not what I was expecting. I was expecting a maybe more generic answer, but maybe he knows something that we don't know, and we'll find that out eventually. But yeah, the clones, gotta love the clones. If you don't like the clones, I question you as a Star Wars fan a little bit. Then I wanted to highlight some people that have been here to Chattanooga Con, actually. This is really cool. I remember last year was year one of this con, and I was happy Jim Cummings was going to be here. I knew him from other things as well. But just to have some voice actors and some people that have worked with Star Wars and been in Star Wars to come here to our little Chattanooga is really cool. Three of these people are here today. I'm sure some of you probably already met them or got to know them. I know they're doing a panel right after us, so if you want to stick around, that might be a good thing to stick around for. Chris I'm just throwing this out there as this just thought come in my head. Is there anybody in the future you would love to see here at this con? Sam Whitmer would be incredible. Very, very cool guy, very nice man too. Saw him at C2E2, and he is a very funny man. What a personality he is, and that voice is very chilling when you hear it in person. Yeah, like I said earlier, I'm from Nick and Nell's Hyperspace. That's our podcast logo. So if you look us up on Spotify, YouTube, you'll be able to find it there. We're more active on those. We do have other podcast platforms that we're on. Pretty much anything you can listen to a podcast on, we're there. And I put up my social. I use Instagram. That's kind of my favorite social media right now. You can follow me there. Chris, if you want to tell people where to find you, you can.
Search Topher on Instagram.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Carmelo's really cool. He teaches college classes on Star Wars as well?
Yeah, my co-host Carmelo Estridge, he's a professor at Columbia College in Chicago. He teaches a whole course on Star Wars now, and that's actually how we met. He posted it online, and I was like, "Can you send me a copy of the syllabus, please?" Because I'm very intrigued by that. So it was very cool. He's been teaching the class now for 2 years, and that's how we became friends. And we decided, hey, let's do a podcast because we talk about Star Wars all the time. Maybe people will want to listen to us talk. Yeah, I have cards up here. When we're done, you guys are welcome to grab one. I would greatly appreciate it and definitely spread the word about our podcast. But now I wanted to open the floor because I know we have a lot of fans here. I want to, if you guys have any questions for us or just want to chat about something in general, we got the mic here in the middle, so you're welcome to walk up. Any questions?
Clone 99.
Sorry, I didn't quite hear you. Your microphone must not be on.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
My
there
name's
you go.
Nicholas, and my favorite clone from the series was Clone 99 with his whole entire want to be helpful for all the clones and his brothers.
Absolutely. I think it's amazing because a lot of people were sort of annoyed, or a lot of the clones were like annoyed by 99 at first, but then the heroic ending that he had and his whole relationship with like Heavy and him not being able to see Heavy after his demise. And that's another moment right there in Star Wars that'll bring a tear to your eye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was just a little old man who wanted to do his best, and I don't know how you could not root for that guy. And I really thought, spoilers for Bad Batch 2, but I thought it was cool how Plan 99 was used at the finale of that, and I didn't realize what it meant when I saw the episode title. It kind of confused me, but after seeing what played out in that episode, it makes a lot of sense, and I just thought that was a nice touch. And Clone Force 99 obviously was a nice touch when we found out what their moniker was. But yeah, that's a standout moment for me too, and I thank you for asking a question and talking to us.
You're welcome.
Hello, I'm Alex, and while I love the Clone Wars animated series, one of my favorite Clone Wars literature is the Republic Commando series by Karen Travis. So I was curious what, your nods, I assume you are familiar with it, you read the books?
I have not. I'm not.
So I am familiar with it, but I've not read it either.
Got it, okay.
So I know there's a lot of lore surrounding like Mandalore and the clones and things like that.
Yeah, so I guess my question was, if you were familiar with it, what were your thoughts on the written lore that was, that were established in those books effectively being retconned with the Clone Wars animated show, just because they're very different in how they were handled, but there's, like I said, personally, it was one of my favorite Star Wars pieces. What was those books? So.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not familiar with them myself. I've heard good things about them though. I think Dave Filoni's an interesting guy. I really love all the work he's done in animation, and even now with live action things, but I know he's kind of gotten a rap in the past, especially with the author of those books and some other authors that he's kind of he's played in the sandbox of others and maybe of Lucas, but he doesn't really let people play in his sandbox. So if there's something he wants to throw away or discard or get rid of, he'll just do it. I think that's a tricky slope. Like I said, the guy tells incredible stories and has some of my favorite Star Wars moments ever, but I do think it's a little frustrating sometimes. Like I was not a fan of those books, but I am a fan of say the Kanan comics that came out years ago, and then the Bad Batch kind of retconned those comics, and the Ahsoka novel that was retconned a little bit, and Tales of the Jedi. So things like that are frustrating a little bit, but to me, I've always looked at Star Wars as like a big mythology, and in Greek mythology and Roman mythology, there's like all kinds of different stories with the same people and same characters, but they're slightly different versions depending on who's telling it or where the origin came from. So I kind of justify it like that with Star Wars, is somebody else is telling the story. I think that for the most part, the story's about the same with most things, except maybe not those novels, but I think it's gotten better. I think Star Wars tends to kind of always put movies and TV over any books or comics or video games, perhaps. for better or worse, I guess it's a good thing. More people are probably going to watch those movies and TV shows than they will read the books or comics. But as a book and comic fan, I can definitely understand that frustration.
Well, yeah, thanks, Chris. I'd recommend that if you're clone lover, massive fan. Those are definitely my favorite books, and even if some of the specifics aren't canon anymore, but just the stories of the clones as individuals, I think it's a great piece of Star Wars media.
Absolutely, I'll definitely have to check it out. I appreciate that.
There's a Republic Commando video game? Is that related to those novels? Or?
Yes,
It is?
actually, yeah,
Okay.
pretty much. Effectively, it's a prequel in a sense, like because the game starts in the middle of Geonosis,
Okay.
but it touches on Delta Squad, and the books don't focus on Delta Squad, focus on a new squad of clone commandos. So, and there are some interactions between the two within the book series too. So,
Nice. Okay, I'll definitely have to check that out then. Thanks for the
Thank you so
recommendation.
much.
Yeah. What's up,
Hey.
Slim?
Hey, my name is PD. I'm actually Chris's brother.
Shout
Known him
out.
for a long time, my entire life, basically. I know, big deal, right?
So you guys are pretty close, huh?
Yeah, not really, honestly. I don't work that much. I just want to come up and ask, our entire life we've been talking about Star Wars and we've been watching Star Wars together and everything. And I've known Nick for, a number of years now too. But I just wanted to know personally, for the two of you, what's one story, maybe from the Clone Wars or from something along that vein in that era, a story that you feel deserves to get fleshed out a little bit more, something that you watched and you were like, I need more of this. Like you mentioned the Siege of Mandalore and everything, what's something that you definitely really want to see getting fleshed out to a greater extent?
Personally, I think I would love to see more of just sort of like the whole crime syndicate with Darth Maul and everything. I know we got a lot of that, but just sort of like seeing more towards like the time of like the Solo movie and stuff like that, seeing more of what was happening around then. I mean, we kind of got like that cliffhanger at the end of Solo, but I think that would have been really cool to see more fleshed out.
Yeah. Any excuse for more Darth Maul. Chris is on board, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think that's a cool one because we don't really get to know what happens between Solo and Rebels, and even before Solo, like we don't know how Maul stayed in power when the Empire took over and things like that. So I think that would be cool to see. For me, I'm itching just because I'm really into the Bad Batch right now. I really would love to see more Bad Batch missions that are during the Clone Wars. We get to see the aftermath and stuff like that when Echo joins, but I would really love to see how the team was outside of that one arc we got. Just itching to see more of them because they're just so fun. Definitely my favorite clones of the whole series. But yeah, I think that would be my answer. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, thanks. You guys rocked it.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Appreciate it.
Hello there.
Hey. Good intro.
Jacob. I just, not to bring up, theories and all sorts of things, but I just wondered what you guys thought about the kind of theory fan thing of that Ahsoka is effectively immortal because of dying on Mortis and being replaced with the daughter. And then the two times we've seen so far that she's almost died, she's been pulled into the world between worlds. So I just wondered what you guys kind of thought about that idea.
I kind of like that. I haven't actually heard that before, but that does really sound interesting to me. I like that.
I have a love-hate thing with the Mortis stuff and the world between worlds.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's really cool. I feel like the more we see it, the more we talk about it, it kind of makes it less interesting for me. But I do like that theory. I feel like Ahsoka's not going away at this point. She's just going to hang around until Dave Filoni's just not writing Star Wars, I guess, or doing anything with Star Wars. So I actually kind of enjoy that idea. I would be cool if she was taking kind of the role of the daughter or equivalent, something like a higher power of the Force or something like that. I think that would be really cool. But who knows? I know the end of Ahsoka left, didn't really answer any questions. It just opened more questions.
For sure.
But I would be curious to see. I think those things are cool. I'm just really hesitant of I like the mystery of the Force and things like that. So the more we dive into how it works and stuff, kind of takes away a little bit of the mystery for me. But
For sure.
Ahsoka definitely has a big role in that. I think at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
I'm excited to see where Balin goes in the next season of Ahsoka.
That's true.
Hello there, I'm Jonathan. Thank you for a great panel.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask if there was anything that you wish you could change, or with the Clone Wars series and stories, if you weren't tied into the canon of Revenge of the Sith or the original trilogy.
Oh, that's a good question. Very good question.
We always laugh that Grievous can't meet Anakin just because of the single line in Revenge of the Sith.
That's a good one. And we've gotten a lot of Clone Wars, so like I'm trying to think of something specific. I guess maybe I would love. I think Tales of the Jedi is a good place, kind of to talk about, and we get to see more of the Jedi kind of hanging around. So I think while we did get some episodes with like spending time with certain Jedi, I think I'd still just love to see more of those Jedi, like maybe Ki-Adi-Mundi or Kit Fisto, things like that. I know they got a couple episodes here and there, but I'd love to see more centralized stories on them and their journeys through the Clone Wars instead of Obi-Wan and Anakin, which I think they're great in this show, but I think I would love to see a different Jedi's perspective on how the War's affecting the galaxy and the politics of it, things like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I thought we would talk a lot longer, but we kind of sped through that. We have about 25 minutes or so, but we could wrap up. Like I said, I appreciate you guys for coming. I don't want to just sit up here and you guys stare at me.
I'm okay with that.
But do it.
I'm okay with that.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. But I want to say again, thanks to Chattanooga Con for giving us this opportunity to come up here and just blab about the Clone Wars. It's one of, like I said, one of my favorite things in Star Wars, and it's just always fun
Thank you guys
to
for
talk
listening
about.
as well.
Yeah, thank you guys for being a great crowd and paying attention to us and not going to sleep. So I appreciate that. But yeah, like I said, if you guys are interested in my podcast or just want to chat with me, I would love to get pictures of cosplayers. If they have time to let a few snapshots, I think you guys look incredible. But yeah, my card's up here up front. You're welcome to grab one, share it with your friends. If you guys love Star Wars, we're very talk about different things. We talk about different themes of Star Wars, character analysis, talk about new books that come out, new comics, just pretty much anything. We're not really opposed to any topic, but like I said, thank you guys so much for coming. I appreciate it, and I know there's a great panel coming after us, so hope we did okay.
Thank you guys so much.